What's up guys, this is Tcg Sam here, and in today's video I'm coming at you guys with my budget-friendly virtual world deck for the new August 2024 ban list. I think this is one of the most adaptable and versatile budget decks out there, and I want to showcase what I think it can do this format. So without any further ado, let's hop straight into the video. So starting off with the main engine, we're playing of course 3 copies of Lulu. Just playing 3 copies of every single one of the hand effects, I think you have to max out on them for consistency. Even if you see just one of them, you can still play, which is why you absolutely need to just play 3 of every single one. So 3 Lulu, 3 Gigi, 3 Lily, and 3 Lao Lao. I chose to play 2 copies of Yan Yan. The reason I'm playing 2 is because I'm playing Pot of Desires, and Yan Yan is very important for your grind game, and you always want to have a copy in your graveyard for further extension. And then I guess the one I can sort of explain is Tutu. Tutu is another one of the graveyard effect ones where you can discard a psychic or a worm monster, special summon it back from the graveyard as a level 6 tuner. You can use it for synchro plays, you can use it for XD's plays, and I think it's a fairly strong card just because you always want to get value off of sending monsters to the graveyard with your other virtual world names, and if Yan Yan's the only one you're playing, then sometimes you're just going to use it in that turn and just not have another form of extension. So I feel like the Tutu could be pretty good. You don't necessarily have to play it. I think it's definitely optional. So that's it for the virtual world monster lineup. It's pretty standard, I guess, aside from the Tutu. And then for the virtual world gate cards, 3 copies of City, 3 copies of Qinglong. Once again, I think you need to max out on these. The reason being, 1 for Desires, but also 2 because you always want something to target, because I think the biggest problem with this deck is consistency, and just not having something to target with a virtual world name is just not great. So essentially you just want to maximize the chances of seeing 2 virtual world cards in your hand so you're able to play, and I feel like maxing out on the gates are one way to do that, since you can actually play this from your hand. And then for the last 3 gates, 2 copies of Chuche, 1 copy of Stranwu. Chuche, this is a very important end piece. You don't want to banish your 1 copy of Desires, and plus it has nice graveyard utility that you want to use during your combo, so you always want to make sure you have another one to use on your field. And then Stranwu is just a nice extender in the graveyard that you can send off any of your virtual world names. And then I guess for the quote-unquote spice, I played 3 copies of Terratop and 1 copy of Tcg. So the reason why I think this is really good is because you get a free rank 3 off of it, and the rank 3s in this deck are incredibly strong, which I'll show in the extra deck once we get there. I think that overall this is probably just a better card than Emergency Teleport because of its 1 card potential on its own. It's able to make a Zeus on its own, which is very solid. It's able to turn into a virtual world name anyways, which is all Emergency Teleport was doing to begin with. And plus Tcg is not terrible to draw in this deck either, because you do have a lot of wind monsters. So I feel like it's a very strong engine, and I definitely like it because just getting an extra body for free is something that this deck really benefits from, and I feel like this is just a little bit of an upgrade over Emergency Teleport, which we used to be playing. And then for the consistency, 3 copies of Pot of Desires. Didn't want to play Prosperity, not only because it's that one, but also because it does conflict with the drawing cards in your extra deck. A lot of your best monsters are those draw synchros, and I feel like you want to take full advantage of that. Virtual World is also a deck that benefits from having a lot of cards in hand, and it doesn't particularly matter which names you see in your hand as long as you see names, so you just want to see more cards with a card like Pot of Desires, which is also why I'm maxing out on it. Doesn't matter if you draw multiples, you can always discard it off of Qinglong. And then for the non-engine, this deck can't play that many. I ended up only being able to fit in essentially 9 copies of non-engine. You can probably push it to 12 if you cut the Terratop engine, but I still felt like it wasn't enough to play hand traps regardless, so I decided to go with the board breaker route. I think 3 Dark Ruler No More is probably one of the highest impact board breakers out there. 3 copies of Evenly Matched, just to simplify the game slate a lot as well. It's a huge blowout against quite a few decks out there, and I feel like you need these huge blowouts if you're playing a board breaker deck, since you won't really be seeing too many of them in your hand. And then 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talents. I didn't want to clog on 3, and I ended up choosing to play Call by the Grave as the 40th card instead. Of course, it's great going second. Call by the Grave is also solid into cards like Phantom of Yugioh, and plus it does help you play around hand traps as well. So overall, that's 40 cards in the main deck. I will also mention, since these board breakers are settable spells and traps, you can trigger Ultimate Zolkin off them. And Zolkin is one of the key monsters in your end board, so having it be always live is very solid, because that's the card that helps you play around Nibiru as well. Before we get to the extra deck, I just want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Card Trader. Card Trader is an online marketplace for buying and selling singles, sealed product, and TCG supplies.
It features sellers from many countries, making it possible to get certain cards in specific prints or languages that would otherwise be difficult to find locally, or simply allow you to shop around and find the best price for the cards you want. For example, I can get this quarter century secret rare Dragon of Pride and Soul in both German and English. Now, with all these sellers from around the world, you may be worried you'll have to pay an exorbitant amount on shipping fees, but that's where Card Trader Zero comes in. Card Trader Zero is a service that allows you to have all your cards shipped to you at once in a single package for a single shipping fee. The cards you order will go directly to their warehouse, where they also quality check the cards you order before shipping them out, making sure that you get exactly what you expected to. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, be sure to sign up for Card Trader today using my affiliate link in the description below. Then use code TCG Sam for 5% off your entire order. You'll be helping to support the channel just by buying the cards you'd already be buying anyways. Now, let's get back to the video.
Now moving on to the extra deck, we're playing one copy of Shen. This is your boss monster, and I think it's a pretty solid card to end on this format. It does shut off key things like the Fiendsmith engine, and it does hurt your opponent when they try to link or synchro off their monsters. It's very important against the Fiendsmith stuff because if your opponent's using Requiem to tribute itself, it's going to get banished, which means once they summon out the Fiendsmith, they're actually not going to be able to force out your Shen right away. For the other 9, we're playing one copy of Vermilion. I think this is the only other 9 that you need. Vermilion is used in some weird hands, but also just going second removal, which is pretty solid in a synchro form. I don't think you need cards like Croc or Stellar Windwolf or anything like that. I feel like you always just want to be ending on Shen as your 9 and focusing on Zolkin as your end board. And then for the 6s, I'm playing one copy of Yugioh. And then for the 2 draw synchros, one copy of Charge Warrior and one copy of Coral Dragon. These are very important parts of the deck. They help you synchro climb and give you draw advantage along the way. And then we're playing one copy of Zolkin, and the Zolkin target was Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Helps you play around a card like Nibiru, but it's also a very solid end board piece. It's one of the few hard negations still left in the format, so I feel like Crystal Wing is a very good end board piece to have. But also, in addition to the Zolk package, since we're focusing so heavily on it, I chose to go with Muddy My Dragon and Invoke Caliga. So essentially, Muddy My Dragon has the effect of fusion summon by treating itself as a specific name. So in this case, it'll treat itself as Alistair the Invoker, and then you can fuse it off with Ultimate Zolkin that you just have sitting on the field afterwards and make Caliga. And essentially Caliga is like a pseudo skill drain because your opponent can only attempt to activate one monster effect per turn, and if you have Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon on the board, then your opponent just essentially can't use monster effects after that, which is kind of crazy because it might even be better than skill drain. Plus you always have a way to protect this with Tcg, so it really isn't going to get run over very often. So I feel like this is a very strong part of your end board to have, and makes it so going first this deck is actually pretty oppressive, and your opponent's going to have a hard time breaking through this unless they very specifically have a board breaker to out it. You don't necessarily have to play it if you don't want to. You could choose to play more utility XYZs, since I did have to cut down the XYZs package a little bit to fit it in. For the XYZs, I chose one copy of Virtual World Shell Jaja. Essentially, this is a Zeus enabler, since you're able to protect it from dying by battle. You can swing into something and then overlay for Downer Zeus afterwards. It is arguably a little bit worse than Fortune Tune when it does that, but I felt like it was important to have this because you actually need the name to target off of your Virtual World monsters. And I wanted to make sure my Speedroid Terratop could turn into engine in the hands where I absolutely needed it to. So I did have to make a little bit of a concession there. Gossip Shadow, this helps you play around hand traps for the hands where maybe you can't make Zolkin, or for the hands where you have all gas plus a Terratop. You can just end on this to insulate yourself from those hand traps and give you an extra end board piece, which is kind of nice. Then playing one copy of Downer Magician to rank up on both of them for the Zeus. For the rank 6s, I'm playing one copy of Fan. It's very strong removal, hits the graveyard and the field, which is nice, so you can take out cards like Fiendsmith when your opponent tries to use them for follow-up. And then I chose to play one copy of M7. I like M7 because it does have the option to be used as a combo piece in certain hands. You could choose to play a Gaia Dragon, the rank 7, just to slap over Fan after using it, so you can always make a Zeus. Or you can choose to play a card like Typhon, but overall I decided the utility of M7 was really strong and I'd rather play with it. And then finally, last card, one copy of Zeus. You do play quite a few XDs monsters, and Zeus is still one very powerful card. So that's going to do it for this deck profile. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. Let me know what changes you would make to the deck, or what you think about Virtual World in the upcoming format. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.